My toxic trait is wanting one bite out of every food when I go to parties, like different flavors of pie. So I thought, what if we made mini pies instead? So I started by trying to make a pie crust, simply because I don't have time to make this from scratch, but that was a f***ing disaster. So I bought a different kind of crust. That was somehow worse. After dealing with all that noise, I made a lemon pie, a molten chocolate pie, and a pumpkin pie. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out, but I especially liked the molten chocolate pie. The internet has been raving about these brownies made by Felix from Stray Kids, but are they actually that good? At first, this recipe seemed pretty extravagant. I have never used caster sugar before, and espresso powder? I've seen this done before, but all I know is that it somehow changes the chocolate flavor. But then I realized, my dumbass forgot to add chocolate chips before putting in the oven. So I tried to get those in by all means necessary. And these came out looking pretty fudgy. I had to cut the smallest pieces possible for whatever reason. But will these taste just as good? Okay, these are delicious. I made these $8 Disney treats at home for only $1, but I was not expecting the level of maintenance here. Now, toffee is kind of tricky, but I think I nailed this part. And this is kind of giving me Squid Game vibes. But melting chocolate is a whole nother battle. Carefully sprinkle a little cinnamon sugar, and that don't look great. But after multiple attempts, I think these turned out okay. But will they taste good? Oh yeah, this smacks. I want to make Halloween cinnamon rolls, but I have never successfully dyed dough before. So I wanted to try again, but this time, I decided to add the dye earlier so maybe it can blend properly. The dough worked out well until I accidentally rolled it the wrong way. And they'll most likely expand in this tiny ass pan. But I'm not gonna stress too much. They taste delicious. Have you ever thought about making champagne cupcakes?
Oh god!
Yeah, me too, apparently. At first, I was a little skeptical. Like, will this actually taste good, or will they just be expensive cupcakes? And immediately coming out of the oven, these smelt brutal. But let's decorate these on up. And I even made baby cupcakes, because why not? But will they taste as good as they look? Okay, I can't really taste the champagne. So expensive cupcakes, but good. Making recipes I found on the internet that'll satisfy the craving. Look, I'm obsessed with cheesecake and brownies, so when I found this recipe, I was floored. Okay then, these kind of feel like the way I'd make my brownies. Really moist and good chocolatey flavor, but now it's time to add the cheesecake. Bake them on up, let them sit, and moment of truth. Whoa, those are extremely fudgy. Yeah, would make this again. My feed recently has been full of people breaking chocolate bars and melting them down into rich, decadent hot chocolate. In my opinion, winter is my least favorite season since I can't stand anything below 20 degrees. Some Canadian blood I am, which is why I'm all about making only the warmest of foods. Anyway, this ended up looking beautiful, and
That's...
And yeah, tasted delicious. Making Felix from Stray Kids chocolate chip cookies, but will they be better than his brownies? Felix's unique style is to use bread flour, which already had me a little sus because I don't like to use as much flour in my cookies. I also added espresso powder, which we also did for his brownies. Boy really likes this ingredient. Roll them into balls, place them in the oven. These are looking fluffy as hell. So are Felix's cookies just as good as his brownies? Okay, not to be dramatic, but these are actually bomb. Making random foods to get rid of my leftovers. The other day I made this churro toffee and was left with a bunch of cinnamon sugar. So I thought, what if we made cinnamon churro RiceKrispy squares? I usually follow the box for measurements, but my dumbass didn't get a big enough pot for everything. So obnoxiously, I was trying to move everything over to a bigger pot. Thought this was gonna be more difficult than it was, but it's kinda just flooped out. Right on. And these came out kinda cute. Wait, what? Those are really good. My feed has been plastered with red velvet everything recently. And maybe it's my conspiracy brain talking, but does red velvet even exist? Like, if you were to break down the concept of what red velvet is, it's basically just extra cocoa powder and a crap ton of food coloring. 1 tablespoon of food coloring to be exact. That can't be safe for consumption. There we go. Our red velvet cookie has been complete. So will this taste any good? Oh shit, this is really good. Okay, fine, I'll join your red velvet cult. I tried making churros, but accidentally made this recipe instead. Okay, no, but why does this look like mac and cheese? Churro mac and cheese? Regardless, I'm actually surprised how easy this recipe is to make. Except the carpal tunnel it's giving me. That kind of sucks. I mean, look at these ripples. Sensational. Swirl in that cinnamon sugar, and I present to you the internet's best churro fudge recipe. And not to be dramatic, but this is the best fudge I've ever had. I tried making Tong Hulu for the first time, and after watching so many creators do it, is it really that easy? I started by prepping and skewering fruit. This looks like a caterpillar. Stirring sugar and water until it gets to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. 299, close enough. So I thought. Me thinking I'm diving into some good ASMR, but what the f happened? Apparently, that extra degree does matter, and so does working fast. So I started again, but did they turn out good? Much better. Juicy and delicious. I tried making Japanese pancakes for the first time, but I already knew this recipe was gonna be a hard one. The title emphasizes it enough. A souffle pancake? Oh god. You have to slowly fold those eggs in, watch the temperature, and basically make your kitchen into your own chemistry lab, which I tried and failed. So round 2, I tried making smaller pancakes. My stress levels were at an all-time high, okay? But I managed to get 3 sorta good-looking pancakes. But I'm gonna keep practicing because these taste delicious. I was looking up ways to make croissants online, but every recipe I found said it would take 12 hours. So of course, I went to find an easier way. And this recipe looked promising, up until I had to take it out of the oven. How did he get his so flat? I wanted to fill the insides with Nutella. So I decided to cut the tops off and just fill her up, I guess. I thought it was gonna be oozing out Nutella, but ended up being kind of disappointing. Maybe this is a sign I need to make croissants for reals. Making chocolate bark the easiest way to see if it actually works. I've been seeing a lot of people online place chocolate bars on a baking sheet and pop it into a warm oven so they can fancy it up, and essentially it's an easier way to make chocolate bark. But when I tried doing it, it still didn't have that satisfying break a normal chocolate bar would. So when I tried it with darker chocolate at a lower temperature, it still didn't work. Though this one did turn out a bit better. My guess is that I still have a lot of learning to do, or the internet will just lie. I love Rice Krispies, but what if we can make them out of other things? First instinct, bring back a classic. And me trying to find the perfect balance between cereal and marshmallows was a lot harder than it looks. Why can't this box just be all marshmallows? And then I tried splattering some chocolate over, not realizing that green on green action doesn't work very well. That was a waste of my time, which meant maybe decorate it with some sprinkles and a little more marshmallows. Whatever, these still taste good. I tried making churro cheesecake bars, but I was a bit skeptical about this recipe. How is this supposed to taste like a churro if we're using croissant dough? At least the cheesecake mixture looked pretty straightforward. Aside from not having any cinnamon sugar in this mixture, in fact, the only cinnamon sugar I'm seeing is going on the outside of the dough. But when I cut into these, they actually look pretty good. These actually taste like cream cheese filled churros. Making things I found on the internet, but hella easier. Donuts have been flooding my feed recently, and I wanted to try making them, but without a complicated dough. So this stuff is a classic, and I think no matter what, I'm gonna be freaked out at frying. I mean, I know, but it just makes me jumpy. And not all donuts wear capes. I went fancy with the chocolate drip and sprinkles. And I'm actually kind of shocked how cute these turned out. And they taste amazing too. I tried making cake pops and they turned out terrible. So it got me thinking, what if I made RiceKrispy pops instead? I used peeps and threw their fluffy bodies into a fire pit, which was kind of sad because their eyes kept poking out. R.I.P. little guys. So I put these all on sticks, dipped the pops into chocolate, and oh boy was I regretting my life choices. The chocolate only ended up making these melt. So I tried it again, maybe a little less chocolate this time. I'm not saying it's perfect or anything. Maybe I'm just not into making things on sticks. I tried making watermelon Tong Hulu, but I'm not gonna lie. I was a little sus, especially after the last time I tried making this. My biggest worry is that the fruit has to be exceptionally dry, which watermelon is not. Also, people told me not to stir this, which I'm okay with because this is now coming out to be some kind of witch's brew. Gotta move fast because 1 degree over will absolutely wreck this. Dunk into ice water. Nice touch, internet. And as I suspected, this is looking really drippy. But will it taste good? This is the best Tong Hulu I've made so far, but definitely needs to serve immediately. I tried making the viral food where you take a croissant, stuff it with chocolate chip cookie dough, and bake. And I'm not gonna lie, this was pretty good. But what if we can make it even better? So I thought about trying a brownie batter. It looks like biscuit dough. But looks can be deceiving, because this tastes like a chocolate croissant. I couldn't resist trying a peanut butter flavor. But this came out super dry and kind of sticky. But I got really shocked by this combination. I tried making this with sugar cookies, and this tastes like vanilla bean. Really good. I tried making Mochi Donuts for the first time, but as it turns out, this was not as easy as I thought it was gonna be. The rice dough ended up being more crumbly than a traditional dough. And even though the recipe said it would come together, that it did not. So my dumb brain decided it would be a great idea to use my hands to knead this, even though it was quite hot. I was a little worried about how these balls might fall apart from each other, but the frying wasn't too bad. Dip into icing, drizzle a little chocolate, and not too shabby for a first timer. Tasted delicious too. I tried making churros for the first time, but are they actually that easy to make? I followed a simple recipe I got online that said this would come together, and then it didn't. Liars! That's why we got hands, so let's use them. However, actually piping this out into the hot oil was nearly impossible. So I got my husband to help with the piping while I cut. Why do they look like little worms? Drench that in cinnamon sugar. These were super decadent and delicious. I tried making Dragon's Beard candy for the first time, but according to some people, this is the hardest thing someone can make. So let's give it a try. Dump all the ingredients into a pot, a little bit of food coloring, and boil until 260 Fahrenheit. Pop these into the molds, and this is where it starts to get difficult. You kind of had to pull a lot, but not too much. Here's my husband popping in, showing me up. Yep, I tried a couple more attempts, and surely enough, this was impossible. But I think it turned out alright for now. I tried using Mr. Beast chocolate to make the best fudge ever. But will these new bars really live up to the hype? I used the peanut butter ones to make it a little more interesting. And because they were the only ones left in the store. Yeah, these better not suck. Let it stir until it gets bubbly and chocolatey, all that good stuff. And now we're ready for the pour, which was actually not as satisfying as I thought it was gonna be. This don't look like ripples. By the end, this looked a little weird. But oh boy was I surprised. These tasted delicious.